America's biggest power company has plenty of upset customers.
I would like nothing more than to see PG&E go down in flames.
It's not just that PG&E charges double the national average price for power, it's also that there's no other choice.
It's not like I can decide that I'm going to go with somebody that's cheaper.
PG&E's monopoly over 16 million people never expires. But the state government does have the power to take it away. After 2 bankruptcies, 6 federal felony convictions, and disasters that killed at least 117 people, that hasn't happened.
I feel like there's just, zero accountability.
So far at the state capitol, PG&E's been able to protect its business. But this year, we're seeing something that used to be unthinkable.
Introducing legislation that will require the state of California to revoke PG&E's license to operate as an investor-owned utility, and then require the California Energy Commission to start a process of acquiring PG&E's assets.
The government takeover, at least on paper, has arrived. State Senator Scott Wiener wants to take the power grid from PG&E and run it as an independent nonprofit organization, like a giant version of Sacramento's SMUD.
Well, we want to run PG&E without the profits of the shareholders being the number one priority.
For an idea of how the takeover would work, you gotta look local. In the map of PG&E's monopoly turf, you'll find pockets where people have already bought their way out. And more are trying, including PG&E's hometown of San Francisco, along with areas around Davis, Grass Valley, and Manteca.
To say they fight hard against efforts like yours would probably be an understatement.
Yes. Yeah.
Peter Rietkirk runs the South San Joaquin Irrigation District, which brings water to Manteca and the orchards around it.
We want to buy the poles and wires, and we want local staff to operate those for the benefit of our neighbors.
It may sound a bit odd at first for the water people to sell power, but in this case, they already do.
This is your power.
We've been generating power and providing it on the bulk electric market now for over 50 years.
The district promises power rates would go down by 15% if it takes control from PG&E. That's mainly because it can't take any profit. It pays its executives just a fraction of what PG&E does, and also because it can borrow money at lower government rates. And they would have to borrow more than $100 million to buy the local power grid from PG&E. That debt would be repaid over decades on people's power bills. A state takeover of PG&E would work just the same way. In SSJID's case, they've already made a formal offer.
PG&E summarily rejected it. They said their assets are not for sale.
PG&E still says that. The company declined to appear on camera for this story, but wrote in an email, PG&E's facilities are not for sale, and changing the structure of the company would not create a safer operation.
No, it won't work. PG&E is PG&E. It's a culture that has not changed. It's not going to change.
Jeff Shields ran this water district back when the fight got started. He points out there are 45 public electric utilities in California, and
none of them have felony convictions.
So the district decided to force PG&E to sell its local poles and wires using eminent domain. That led to a bunch of fighting in court, all of which ground to a halt when PG&E filed for bankruptcy, which automatically freezes all lawsuits against the company. It took Sacramento more than 2 decades to break out of PG&E after the voters approved it. Manteca is coming up on that.
You know, we had been in this process for over 15 years.
The cities have been on their own, just trying to fight PG&E to acquire the assets.
Senator Wiener wants the state to at least help these local fights, which would also be new. PG&E used to have the ear of nearly everyone in the state capitol. It donated money to 8 out of 10 elected officials here, including the one who matters most.
Nothing is going to happen if the governor hasn't signed off on it.
Make no mistake that I included it in the budget because I'm serious about it.
Governor Gavin Newsom says he's prepared to do a takeover, but that it's his break the glass option, as in case of emergency.
I'm gathering you would argue we're in an emergency already.
We are in an emergency. It's a really bad situation with PG&E right now.
The governor's talk is trending tougher. He's been talking about the possibility of taking over PG&E since his early days, but he used to say things like,
Got to give these folks a chance.
Today he's saying things like,
PG&E, that company no longer exists. There's going to be a new company, or the state of California takes it over.
That may sound like an endorsement of the takeover, but it's not. Newsom says his plan A is a reimagined PG&E. He wants it to have a new structure, a new culture, maybe even a new name, but he still wants shareholders to own it. He still wants it to be an investor-owned utility, or IOU.
And that new company is going to be transformed. And in 5 or 10 years, I think that IOU potentially could make every one of us proud and could be a model for the rest of the nation if we do our job.
That echoes promises PG&E's made before.
That's why we're working every day to make PG&E the safest energy company in the nation.
The governor is suggesting it might be possible this time that PG&E is down to its last chance.
I mean, how many chances do you have to give somebody? You know, it's kind of like how many times do you have to let a criminal out of jail before he, kills somebody? And they have.
The governor's refused to publicly set a line that PG&E can't cross, a trigger that would turn him against keeping the company going. In private, his office is negotiating with PG&E, and the future of the power supply to 16 million people will be at stake.